a 501c3 nonprofit. We have a board of 8 people called the Westside Queer Resource Center. And our mission is to foster a welcoming, supportive, and safe environment for the LGBTQIA+ community, their families and allies, by providing programs, education, advocacy, and resources. And we strive to embrace intersectionality and adapt to the needs of our diverse community through collaborative efforts. What that looks like right now is we're providing a lot of trainings for everyone from local businesses to faith communities on how to be more inclusive and welcoming. Our end goal is to have a physical space, but right now we are just kind of an amoebus group of people doing pop-up events throughout the community. So that's a little bit about us. I will, in the chat, put our Facebook page, and then we have a Venmo. We are working on getting a website. We're very new. We just got 501c3 status about 4 months ago. So we're building up ourselves as a community organization. But we already have a few partners like the Hillsborough Hops, which is our minor league baseball team out here we've partnered with for Pride Night. Bag and Baggage, which is our local professional theater community, has done fundraisers with us before. So I'm just really excited to be here representing our little resource center goal. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. It sounds like you need our support since you guys are just getting off the ground. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you for being here for sure. All right, Kirsten, we're going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lou. I couldn't be more honored, and I'm just really excited to support the Hearth team in this very creative endeavor. We were talking before we got started here about just, I am just getting so excited about all the collaboration and networking that's happening in this time when, you know, we're supposedly isolated, and yet I have new friends and connections on this call that are a result of this time. So just thank you so much for having me. So I'm Kirsten from the Tower Garden and Juice Plus company. And just a little background about myself. I've been an occupational therapist in what I call the sick care industry for about 35 years. I now have an administrative role in my healthcare job, but the state of healthcare, the state of our environment, the state of people's health, especially now during these times, just has been more and more disillusioning to me as I've gone on in my career. So, you know, I discovered Tower Garden and a way to grow my own food in an urban environment about 5 years ago when I was having my own health challenges and realized that I needed to be eating more plants and move my focus to a more plant-based diet. So I found this company that not only has encapsulated whole food produce, which helps me get a ton of plants in my diet, but Tower Garden is where I get really excited because I am a former organic farmer. I have always converted a certain part of every yard I've ever lived in to growing my own food. And about 4 years ago, my husband and I were transferred to Portland, where we found ourselves in a 3rd-story condo, and I just thought I was going to die. I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, there's only so many containers I can have on this deck, right, to grow food. And so I was introduced to Tower Garden, and I'm going to share my screen now and show you what Tower Garden is. I get really excited about it because we get to grow food, and especially during these times, you know, the fewer trips to the grocery store I need to go and have contact with other people and wonder who's touched my food and wonder about the quality of my food, the better. So the Tower Garden uses 98% less water, and during, you know, these times of drought, that's a concern. And then for those of us urban dwellers, and as the planet is getting more crowded, 90% less land. So you can grow all these plants I'm going to show you pictures of in just a 3x3 space. So so let me share my screen here, and let's see. Whoops, that's my email, not my PowerPoint. Sorry about that. There we go. And hopefully we're getting there. Are you guys seeing a full screen now? Okay. Oops, and that's my last slide too. So sorry about this, you guys. As I was saying to Lou earlier, it's like we're all, I'm having to let go of my perfectionism here with all of the technology, because I'm not perfect, and it looks like my internet stopped working, and I'll be right back with you guys with my screen share. Okay. All right, we have it. We've got our, there we are. Okay, Tower Garden by Juice Plus. It's a vertical aeroponic growing system. You can grow produce with no pesticides, no soil or digging, no weeding. It uses 5 to 10% less of the water of a normal garden. You can grow year round. That's a beautiful thing. So in November, when everybody else is buttoning up their gardens, I'm just putting lights on mine and growing year round. And again, as I found, I'm going to show you a picture here in just a second of the first tower garden that I had that was on my patio, which was a very small space. As an occupational therapist too, I get really excited about the potential for people with disabilities that can do home gardening. You know, I've always taught gardening as an occupational therapist, and you know, the fact that you can just wheel somebody up in a wheelchair, or they can stand with a walker and you know, not have to bend to the ground is just really great. And if any of you on here are people that don't have a green thumb, that is a beautiful thing too, because it could not be any easier. So again, I'm going to scroll back through. So there is my picture of myself in Beaverton, the first year that I found myself being an urban dweller, and you can see the double rainbow. I feel like that was kind of a sign of things to come. That truly was me just popping my head out the door and seeing the rainbow come off my tower. But literally, for me, one tower feeds my husband and I, just the two of us here, year round. So what you see in this middle picture on our third story is tomatoes, zucchini, cucumber, kale, and basil. So that I call these my caprese towers. So so that's just a little teaser. So strategies for a healthy lifestyle. You know, during these times, I feel like our focus on health is probably bigger and more focused than ever, because we know we have to take care of ourselves. And so, you know, a tower garden and my commitment to eating more plants really comes as a part of a package. And the first one is taking nice deep breaths. There's a lot going on in the world right now. You know, there's a lot of anxiety and, you know, just worry about the future. And so if any of you have not taken 3 deep breaths today, please do so now. I made sure that I did before this presentation, but because you're all muted, you can do some deep breaths and it will just help your entire day. Get outdoors every day. That is my absolute therapy. And you know, I've been in front of a screen more and more these times, as many of us have. So me going out and picking salad for my lunch, or you know, picking kale off my tower to throw in my smoothie in the morning, gets me that sunshine that sometimes I wouldn't get otherwise. Think of what you're grateful for. There's a lot of studies these days about gratitude and how it changes brain chemistry. And once again, you know, there's a lot to be worried about during these times, but if you just take those moments, either keep a gratitude journal or just really focus on the things that you do have and not the things that you don't, it really makes a huge difference. Plenty of clean water. I think most of us know about that. Whether we do it or not is a whole other thing. Sleep as much as your body needs. That's a tough one. But again, maybe with our less busy schedules, you know, if we have flexibility of when we can start our day, or absolutely make those choices to get off of our screens earlier so that our brains can calm down and actually get to sleep at a decent hour. That's a good one. Move your body the way it wants to move. You know, some of us love to dance, some of us love to hike, some of us do yoga. But again, I heard something the other day about COVID-15 that everybody's gaining. And again, kind of weaving in activity and movement throughout your day is just really important. And then last but not least, and the focus of what I'm going to talk about today is eat your greens, veggies, and fruits every day, 10 or more servings. And here's the kicker, guys, is that with our decreasing food supply that I'll go into a little bit later, the daily serving recommendations keeps going up. Does anybody remember that? Like not that long ago, we were recommended to eat 5, right? And then it was 7, and now it's 10, and now, you know, I've heard 7 to 13, and it's fist-sized servings. So it's really tough in a day to get that, and especially if you're a small person and without a huge appetite, it's really hard to get. So Tower Garden helped with that. I'm going to go into maybe a little of the, I want to say depressing, but the reality check part of the presentation today, just to kind of paint the why as much as possible we should be taking our food into our own hands, whether it's buying more locally or growing as much as we can, is that in this day and age of how far our food travels, the carbon footprint for food to reach us and much food that's being shipped, which is, you know, in the Pacific Northwest in the wintertime especially, so much of our food is shipped from California or Florida or Mexico, and those are huge carbon footprints that are left behind just to get food to our table. So food miles really are the enemy of nutrition. And this is one of the reasons why the daily serving requirements keep going up, is that our food is shipped from so far that by the time it reaches our table, much of our food has lost up to 40% of its nutrition value. So that's a huge one. Is the closer and the closer to the time that your food is picked, the more nutritious it's going to be, and it's also going to mean that there's a lot less of a carbon footprint. So number 2 is that this is kind of an interesting fact that I've been learning, is that California is growing a huge percentage of our food in the United States. 99% of all of our almonds come from California. 95% of all the broccoli, tomatoes, grapes, pistachios are coming from California. At the same time, droughts, fires, and floods in California are getting worse and worse because of climate change. So there are going to be ongoing challenges with our food supplies. And I think during these times where shipping and supply and distribution has become more of a challenge, we're seeing some of that already. I'm sure most of us have gone to the grocery store and gone, what? We can't get what? You know, things that we just took for granted a few months ago. We already talked a little bit about water. 164 trillion gallons of water have been gone in the past decade just through agricultural farming. And again, you know, not to make California the bad guy, but we do as a nation and as a world tend to grow food in drought areas. And we've just taken for granted that we have, you know, that we have the aquifers to support that. Well, now we're finding that those are dwindling. Toxins. We all know about the dangers of heavy metals, fungicides, herbicides, pesticides, and incidental chemicals in our food supply. And one of the sad things to me, we're almost done with the depressing part, you guys. We are going to get on to solutions here. But as a person who's committed myself to organic farms, who used to be an organic farmer myself, the discouraging thing about even the organic label is that that's a once-a-year paper certification. You know, the funding is not available to really provide the oversight to organic produce that needs to happen. And so the latest studies have found that either through overspray or through shipping in trucks that have pesticides in them, or by crossing state or international lines, much of our organic produce that's getting to us in the stores has some residual chemical in it. So even organic, it's better than commercial. Growing our own and having control over our own food is even better. And then, my goodness, food safety recalls that we have been experiencing over the past few years is really scary. And then Also, we have this added challenge lately of finding out that there are outbreaks of COVID in our latest, in our packing plants and whatnot, which to me is really scary. And I don't know if there's enough study yet to know, if you freeze the food, does COVID die? Even if there was an outbreak at that packing plant, not sure yet. I don't know. Haven't seen anything on the CDC website about that yet. And then we've already talked about declining nutrition. So, the other piece of, and when I talk just a little bit about this, is that as soon as you take a vegetable off the vine, they immediately go into the decay process. So, again, in summertime, we're really blessed here in the Willamette Valley. I think most of us on this call are from the Willamette Valley. We have, we live in a breadbasket, and we're so lucky for that 6-7 months a year where we can go to farmers market or go to our local fruit and veggie stand. We know that things were picked probably that morning by the farmers, but come about November, December, when the frosts start happening, that all changes. So again, we lose 15 to 55% of our nutrition in our food. And that was just one study from University of California. So how to grow some of your own food. So now on to solutions, because I am a cup half full girl, never a cup half empty. Again, if I think that if you're not ready for the commitment of full-on growing or a full-on aeroponic system that I'm going to describe here soon, just starting small, a few containers with some greens and kitchen herbs can make a difference. If you think of a package of rosemary, and rosemary in the Willamette Valley will stay green year round. Here, if you think of one of those little packages that you have to go to the grocery store and buy, once again, probably grown in California, somewhere in a greenhouse, it's been shipped to you and it's in a plastic container. Makes me crazy to buy organic stuff in plastic containers. So just by growing your own kitchen herbs in some pots on your deck or in your windowsill can make a difference. That reduces the carbon footprint of food. Starting with easy to grow plants like parsley, peas, arugula, greens, and kale. Those are things that don't require a lot of soil nutrition. So even a little box or some containers on a deck, all of these things grow really beautifully and are really, there's those things that kids grow in schools because they're quick gratification, right? Build your own compost if you want. I'm sitting here looking out at 2 barrel composters right outside my window. I love them. I got to actually steal them from my neighbor Shelby's yard because she wasn't using them. You might get them back, Shelby, if we ever move. But we do grow our food here at the house for things that we can't grow in our tower. And we love building our own compost because really nothing goes to waste, right? So we've got this great organic soil coming out of our composters. And again, kind of in urban settings, if they're contained rather than big piles on the ground like we used to do, you will not have problems with raccoons and rats, which we used to. So highly recommend the barrel composters. If you want to grow your own food on a little larger scale, you don't have room, if you're excited about getting involved, offer to do work trade for a local small farm or join a local garden, community garden. Now, I don't know what's happening with community gardens these days. I would imagine they're relatively safe because they're outdoors, but you'd have to check on those guidelines. And if you, like me, want to be doing a little bit more and take it a little more seriously, vertical gardening is an answer. So here's what our gardens look like. So they are a great solution. I love this saying, you have a global solution with a local impact. So really, you're eating minutes old produce. You can see how many row feet will grow on these towers. Essentially, if you've ever grown in the ground, 1 head of lettuce, generally we say requires about a row foot, which is so a 12 by 12 space. So if you can see in some of these ports, there are 36 to 48 spaces being grown with, or food is growing in them. And so if you think of, 48 row feet compared to just growing in your tower, that's quite a significant difference. And I'll show you what's on my front porch here in just a few minutes. So we've already talked about the solutions. We've already talked that it's a vertical aeroponic growing system. The other really cool thing about the food that grows in Tower Garden is that it grows 30% faster because you've got control over the nutrition that goes into the roots of the plant. And as I'll show you here in a few minutes, it's a soilless system, which is really, really cool. So for you nonprofit people and for people with a larger vision, here's where it gets really exciting for me. So I'm going to show you my home growing unit, but I have a guest on today, David DeValley, and I are really looking for some larger projects. You know, that I'm going to show you kind of the pie in the sky ones, but you can probably imagine some potential here in the Portland metro area as I go through these. I am on fire about getting as many towers in public spaces, you know, food pantries, wherever we can get them, because I just think they're such a brilliant solution. This Step Up on Vine, Los Angeles was well, it still is, a project that Kobe Bryant founded for supplying local food pantries in Los Angeles with greens. And you can just see, I mean, they're beautiful, and you know, it's philanthropy on a rooftop, essentially. Cities of New York, Parks and Recreation do gardening classes up on the top of their roofs, and I think we've just got a few rooftops in downtown Portland. Every time I'm down there, I think, oh my gosh, we could just be growing so much of our own food in Portland. And Tower Gardens for restaurants. Many restaurants are taking to Tower Gardens because the waste with the expense and waste of shipping greens and then storing fresh greens is really immense for the restaurant industry. So again, with food supplies too, and shipping and whatnot, it could be a great option for restaurants. Tower Garden for grocery stores. I'm not sure, honestly, which grocery store does this, but you can see in 3 weeks, the one on the left is a brand new tower, and then just 24 days after seeding is a pretty full Tower Garden there. Tower Gardens in schools, another passion of mine. In the process of helping a few school teachers write some grants right now to get Tower Gardens in schools. And if any of you are out there and know school teachers or are teachers yourselves, Tower Garden provides free lesson plans, K through 8, for teaching kids how to grow their own food. And this gentleman right here is Stephen Ritz. If you guys want some inspiration, just Google him or find him on YouTube. He has some really amazing TED Talks, and I mean, this guy is growing so much food in the Bronx, New York, and teaching. I mean, he's got everything from preschool programs all the way up to job training programs for kids in these food desert areas of urban New York. So he's an inspiration to me. So there's Stephen at one of our Tower Garden events, and then a little guy in a preschool to the right that's growing food in his preschool. So Chicago O'Hare Airport, if any of you have been through that airport, they are growing food for all the restaurants. AT&T Giant Stadium has Tower Gardens. And I actually have thought, again, not knowing what's going on with the Timbers and Providence Park, I hear that their season is starting, but I was thinking Providence Park could be a pretty cool place for Tower Gardens. So anyway, a lot of people ask, how much does it cost? And whoops, sorry about that. I just blacked out on the cost. So with the lights, what the Tower Garden Company does is breaks it up into 12-month payment plans. So if you're writing a grant for a nonprofit, you'll just be able to pay for it in one fell swoop. And the little unit here on your left with lights is right around $900. But what they do is they break it into 12-month interest-free payment plans so that it ends up being about $83 a month for a year, and then you own it outright after that. So without the lights, it's a little bit less. And my husband and I figured this slide here says the return on investment is 1 to 2 years, but my husband and I, with as many greens as we eat, figured that after about 3 to 4 months after we had had our first couple crops, we were absolutely spending more than $80 a month on our produce. So ours was paying for it faster. It really depends on what you grow and how fast you grow it. So what I'd like to do is, if there are any, I guess, you know what, let me just head out to my garden, because that's where I want to kind of break it down a little bit and show you guys, you know, what it looks like hands-on. And I'm going to switch over to my honey, who is going to be my photographer here for a second. So hopefully he is waiting in the wings, and I'll see. Yeah.
Can we see if anyone has a question at this point?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if so you said it's soilless, is that right?
It's soilless, yeah.
So what's inside?
Okay, I will definitely show you here in a second. Yeah.
Cool.
Any other questions before I head outside and do the hands-on? And Heather, I don't know, Heather Todd is on here and actually has a tower with lights on it inside. I don't know, Heather, if you're anywhere near being able to show off your tower while I transition. Both mine are outside right now. So Heather may not be near hers. So, oh, there she is. Heather, can you feature Heather for a second, Lou, while I'm making my switch?
Yeah, as long as you're talking, Heather, you should be up on the screen.
Cool.
Excellent. Excellent. Hi there. I've been listening in as I've been getting my kids ready to move here today. And yes, I have a tower garden. I've only had it since about the beginning of April, and it has been amazing. My tower garden, I just recently took all the plants out because they were starting to bolt, because the life of the plants depends on your environment, the temperature, if it's outdoors or indoors. And mine were indoors. I have the newer home version of the tower garden. And so mine typically lasted about 3 months, and then they start to bolt and they get a little bitter. And that's your clue that you need to put new starts in and restart your whole crops. So I did that just last week, and I am sprouting some new babies, and I'll show you those in a second. But here is my home tower that sits in my house. And it's all empty right now, and it just sits great in the corner of one of my rooms here in the house. And then I'll go over here and show you my little seedlings that I've started from the seeds that are provided with your tower. See some of these little seedlings here. And these are a bunch of lettuce seedlings. So in my tower, I realized that salads are what we really enjoy. That's one of the biggest things that we have with all of our meals, our lunch and dinners. So lettuce was going to be the most beneficial crop that I could grow for our family. And so we decided that our next round was going to be mostly heads of lettuce and a few little herbs up in the top microgreens area. So that's my tower garden. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks so much, Heather.
You bet.
How's the sound, guys?
Good.
Move your hand away from the sound thing at the bottom. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so this is my outdoor tower. And as Heather, you saw Heather's had the lights coming off the top. I just have my cap on mine because it's outdoors and gets plenty of sun. I am. So my little guy, Lou, you
Actually, real quick, everybody mute your mics again for us, please. Thank you so much. And actually, real quick, Kirsten, someone has a question. Laura has a question about how much time Heather spends per day on her tower garden. So we'll just real quick.
I can tell you how much I spend on mine. We've kind of averaged it out as a group, and we figure it's about, once you have it planted and things are really rolling, it's about 5 minutes a week. The most time you're spending really is harvesting. So, you know, and I did do a cleanup of mine and put a bunch of new babies in, like this is a little pepper plant. It was probably an hour, that I do maybe once every couple months, but significantly less than I do in my dirt garden. So, so Lou, you were asking about, it's a soilless system, and what they do, you can either grow your plants like Heather was talking about, or some of us order from a seed company, and you receive them in these little plugs. And this is what's called coco coir. So it's an organic recyclable medium that the plants grow in, but they don't require soil. They just require air and water. So maybe Brent, can you come over and do a little close up here of the, so what this is a 20-gallon reservoir. Down below, you fill it with water, and I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Brent, kind of show them the water, and there's a little pump in there that circulates the water up through, and the water is not on right now, but it essentially just drips the seeds and the roots of these little guys to grow the food, which just seems remarkable because we're so used to dirt, plants being reliant on dirt. But what dirt really is just a medium through which the minerals come through the roots of our food. So it's just very, it's kind of a little hard to wrap our brains around, but essentially to kind of go over what I'm growing in here right now. And some of these, like this big chard plant I've had in here for 3 months, and I will just keep cutting off of this probably until fall. So, I have a combination right now of things that have been in here for a while and then things I've just added. You just saw that little baby tomato and pepper plant. I've got some beautiful basils up here that I just planted. And these came again from a company in Arizona called True Garden, which I order a lot of my plants from. If you're doing this with kiddos in the classroom, you absolutely want to be starting things from seed, because that's some of the cool, those are the cool teaching moments, right? But the Tower Garden Company sends us with a complete kit of seeds and these medium called rock wool, which is, again, it's soilless, but it's just a place to put the seeds. And just with water, those seeds will sprout. It's just a very different technology. So the other thing that we add, again, you might ask, well, where do the minerals come from? So Tower Garden has a proprietary blend of earth and sea minerals that's contained in their Aeroponic A and B. Comes with complete instructions of how much to add and at what point in your growing cycle. So it's a plug and play system, which I love. I'm an experienced gardener, but for people who are just starting out or have a lot of anxiety about killing plants or whatever, it really couldn't be simpler. The other thing that you do is, you're refilling this in the summertime. There will be some evaporation. We talked about it using 95% less water. But the plants do transpire water out of their leaves, and especially if you're growing things like tomatoes, which I don't have any tomato plants to show you yet this year. But if you're growing tomatoes and a lot of fruiting things like strawberries and zucchini and cucumber, those are full of a lot of water. So you will need to, top off your tower maybe once a week with a few gallons of water. But if you compare that to how much you would have to water plants in the ground, it's significantly less. So with the water, you're going to have to adjust your pH. And so there's a little pH tester kit that it comes with, and you simply do pH up, pH down. And then the other piece that I don't have a lot of problems with outdoors, I do a lot of companion planting. Like I plant marigolds, which are a kind of a natural bug deterrent. They're not a pesticide, but bugs don't like marigolds, and so I plant several marigolds in my tower, and I love violas too for the same reason. But it's called companion planting, so you're kind of doing natural natural pesticides that way. But if you do end up with any bugs on your tower, outside not a whole lot. Indoors, I've had occasional problems with aphids. So what I use is an organic neem oil, and so all I do is just
spray the bases of these plants a couple of times, and 2 doses of the organic neem have just knocked down any aphids that I've had any problems with. So it's really just been remarkable. I think I told you we do have a couple of planter boxes where we're growing potatoes, carrots, beets, things that, yeah, most of the rooting vegetables. Of course, you can't grow any root vegetables in this, so that's what we're growing in dirt. But for all of our greens, as Heather said, all of our salads, all of our stir-fry greens, our basil for, you know, in the summertime, I call this my caprese tower. We've got some collard greens that'll be coming on. We've got arugula. We've got red sorrel. We've got kale, lettuces. I mean, it's just kind of endless, but it is a greens machine. So that's what it really excels at. So at this point, I could take some questions and yeah, just dive deeper into how this thing works if you want me to.
If anybody has a question, just unmute yourself in the bottom left of your screen and just go ahead and ask.
Hey, I was wondering how much the jugs of minerals are and how frequently you have to replenish those.
I'm sorry, I was having just a car went by just at that moment. So can you say the question again?
Sure. How often do you have to replenish those 2 jugs of minerals, and how much are they?
Yeah, the jugs of minerals, I go through about about 2 jugs per year per tower. We have 2 towers, and so these are about $80 a year. So it's 40 for the A and 40 for the B. So it's about $80 a year per tower. That makes sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Pretty low maintenance, and the starts when I order them are about $2 per piece plus shipping, coming from Arizona. So if you want to go really, really economically, you just grow your own, and it's literally the cost of a packet of seeds, you know, and a little rock wool every once in a while. So. Yeah.
This is Laura. I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I was just wondering, does the white part get kind of moldy or anything, or kind of clean it?
Yeah, we do clean it. And as I said, you know, last week I did a big clean out because I was doing a bunch of, you know, a changing out, kind of taking out a bunch of old kale and lettuces that were kind of at the end of their life cycle. But, you know, just a little bit of vinegar water. I mean, you can see it's pretty shiny white now. And I just take a little scrubby. Some people use bleach, and I don't like to use bleach. So I just use vinegar and water and a little scrubby, and it just cleans right up. So
yeah, I like the vinegar, but like, how old is that tower?
this tower is this one's 4 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you can keep it pretty darn tidy. I mean, I've obviously got a few, I don't know if you can see here, I've got a few, you know, just things that have fallen off the tower, but if you stay on it, they don't get, you know, it's like anything else. If you maintain it well, they don't get nasty and ugly and gross. So yeah, especially when you have them indoors, like Heather's, you know, they're very easy to keep. You just kind of wipe them down, just like you would any plastic. So, and we've got Heidi here. Oh, we've got Heidi commenting. Awesome. Heidi is joining us from Southern California. Oh, thank you. Heidi set me straight. The mineral blend is $60 for both blends, plus shipping. We've got another veteran tower gardener here. And I love the fact that I can grow more than 1 head of lettuce from 1 seedling. This is true. I have had some lettuce on here. In fact, I just took out my older lettuces because I had them in my tower since March. And so, you know, you can just keep harvesting and keep harvesting off of 1 plant, which is so much longer than you can from plants in the soil. So thank you so much for pitching in there, Heidi. Oh, great. Heidi's got a picture of some tomatoes, which mine are not they're not mature enough yet to show off. So go ahead, Heidi.
So I just picked these, oh, I'm dropping them. I just picked these from my tower. I haven't even washed them. I just put them straight in the bowl. I picked these 2 days ago, straight from my tower. They're just the best tomatoes ever. We've had almost 1,000 tomatoes just from 2 plants. We've had the best yield this year than we've had, I think. We moved and we have more sunshine, and yeah.
Can you say that number again, Heidi?
Almost 1,000.
1,000 tomatoes?
Yeah.
From one tower?
From 2 plants, from 1 tower, 2 plants.
Oh my gosh.
Let me take you out, guys, outside. I have 2 towers, and on 1 tower I have tomatoes, because the tomato plants can just go crazy and take over the whole tower. So they're coming to the ends. They don't look very pretty now. I don't know if anyone's familiar with growing tomatoes, but they're looking a bit shabby now because they're coming to the end. So we're about to get ready to take all the tomatoes off and close it down and clean it up and put some fresh plants in there. But on this, forgive me if I break up, but we have Anaheim peppers, bell peppers, chard, basil, romaine lettuce. We've actually got some butternut squash growing. I don't know if you can see that butternut squash down there growing. We have several of those. We have strawberries, kale, and yeah, we love it. Love
Thanks
it.
for pitching in. What I love is, when we get more than one tower gardener on here, you guys can kind of see the potential of the different places people grow. And as I said, we're all individual tower gardeners, but kind of a group of visionaries in this in this community, and we just feel like we're going to save the planet by tower gardening. It's just such it's a beautiful technology, and there is so much support. That's the other thing, is not only when you buy a tower garden, you're buying from individual representatives who know about tower gardening, but we also have a lot of support through Facebook pages, which are communities of hundreds of tower gardeners growing around the country, as well as our official site having the support of the founder of Tower Garden, Tim Blank, who used to work for the Epcot Center, and I think it was it was the place that he worked in Epcot Center and got really inspired to make home units for people. So the technology is just really well researched, and yeah, the support that you would have is amazing.
Kirsten, I'm curious. So there's one that comes with lights versus one that doesn't. And I'm assuming that you would just use one outdoors without lights, but during winter in Oregon, do you need those LED lights?
You absolutely need them. I've had a few friends try to grow them, against a window, and it's just not enough light, even with the brightest light coming through the window. So yeah, it's the same unit. You just take the little lid off. Mine is too tall to show you guys, but you just take the top unit off and you just put the lights on instead. So it just couldn't be easier, the change out. Yeah. Thanks for the questions. Anyone else with questions? Well, with that, I think we could probably wrap it up, Lou. I just really appreciate everyone's interest. And as I said, David DeValley and I have been brainstorming about some causes. Like I want to get some towers in some of these either, nonprofit centers or schools, like kind of the sky's the limit in terms of where these towers could go. But I really think of anywhere where we're wanting kids to learn how to grow their own food, food pantries, those kind of places. So that I'm really looking for ideas, honestly, from this community. Do you know anyone? Do you have any organizations or causes that could really benefit from people growing their own you know, their own fresh organic produce. So
I actually have a contact I'm beating around in my head right now. I'm on the board of directors for the YWCA of Greater Portland, and we have a lot of work that we do with incarcerated women in Coffee Creek. And they have a huge community garden for minimum security, and I'm wondering if this might be something that would be of interest to them, to know how to grow their own food when they come out of prison.
wow, Stephanie, those are the kind of causes that I'm telling you that just warm my heart. And you're one of the PDX boss ladies, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, why don't I can contact you via Messenger after this. I would love to talk to you. 'Cause David and I have already been working on some ideas for projects. So something like that could be absolutely incredible. Thank you.
Awesome. I used to send the women at Coffee Creek Wee Moons. I worked for that Wee Moon publishing company for a while. So women's calendars with art and writing from women all over the world. And yeah, I used to mail them calendars every year. So that's awesome, an awesome idea. I love it.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great. Well, hey, Kirsten, I want to thank you so much for speaking with us today. And I want to thanks also to everyone who has attended. Please go ahead and like the Hearth Team on Facebook so you can see all of our upcoming Lunch and Learn topics. And remember that Lou and I are available if you or anyone you know are thinking of buying or selling a home in the metro area. Please also don't forget to donate to Westside Queer Resource Center. I'll be sending out an email with some links to that organization and a link to Kirsten's website so you all can connect. But I just want to say thanks everyone so much, and please stay in touch with us.
Appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All together.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everybody.